Here's Corey Brotherson.
Thank you. Yes, I am a Brummie, born and bred. So I am a writer. I've been writing professionally for 22 years. Started off as a games journalist, and then kind of like went into fiction about a few years after that. I've been writing fiction professionally for about 17 years. So I've been kind of like dabbling between video games and also fiction as well over that period of time. Yeah, you wait now. you stand there like a naughty child. So really right now, at this moment in time, I do straddle between video games and comic books. In video games, I'm writing the world's first Windrush video game called Windrush Tales. It's like an illustrated adventure game, along with a team of other people. At the moment, it's still very early in development, but we'll be hopefully launching that in the coming years as we go along. I'm also writing comic book-wise several series. One of them is called Dudley and Ann, which is an anthology about three women and a female spider, looking at themes such as mental health, disability, privilege, identity, told through the lens of sci-fi and fantasy and a bit of kind of fable. But I also work on another series called Magic and Myths, which is something which I've been working on with my co-creator, artist Sergio Calvert, who I've never met in the 12 years we've been working together. He lives in Barcelona. But that's a story about finding your identity in a world which is constantly telling you what you can and cannot be. A young lady called Eve, who is suffering from increasingly difficult disability, but also having to deal with the fact that her father wanted a son and doesn't want to talk to her. And she's given the opportunity to become a mythological heroine known throughout human history forevermore. And so she's dropped in a strange fantasy world full of gods, monsters, witches, and has to prove herself in the process. But in the doing of that, she discovers there is a great cost that comes with what she wants. And the cost is extremely high. So that becomes another part of the story as we go along. So I'm continuing to work on these things. I'm working on a few secret things as well, which I'm not allowed to mention.
Will you tell me if I tickle you?
No, that'll just cause me to break down.
Okay.
But they'll be coming. Information news will be coming very, very soon. So I'll be revealing more soon.
Excellent. Thank you. That's brilliant. Now, Yomi Ayeni has joined us. You were doing a bit of a transaction, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Same thing to you. Just tell us a little bit. I'm excited for all three, by the way, can you tell? But Yomi and I share a love of steampunk.
Yes, we do.
Don't we? So please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're working on at the moment.
Hi there. My name's Yomi Ayeni. I live in London. I'm a musician, DJ, writer, amongst other things, chef. I've been dabbling with media in various forms. I've worked in the BBC newsroom, where I helped to produce the 1, 6 and 9 o'clock news bulletins, worked on the Today programme, worked on Radio 1 for Newsbeat, and I helped to launch a channel called News 24. Subsequently, I got a little bit fed up with the news of the day, and I went on to create a couple of reality TV formats, one for Sky and one for ITV, and that led me to kind of take a different path in life. I went off and did a master's in interactive multimedia and won an award for some of my work. But at that point, I kind of thought there had to be more to life than just chasing fame and fortune and money, which is a good thing. I went into film. And then I took a whole bunch of money and I made my first film, which was great, only that I made no money, which is not so great. Then I came up with this weird idea of Clockwork Watch, which is a story that I've been telling for the past 11 years. I say my master's degree kind of showed me, or my practice in itself showed me that the public want more than just to be spoon-fed stories. They want to be part of a story. They actually want to help you craft a story. but to do it in a way that isn't particularly commercial. When you look around you, everything drives you, or everything is driving you to buy, you know, even down to the T-shirts. The T-shirts are there to advertise someone else's work. And I kind of felt there's more to life than that. I wanted to create stories that people can live in. Hence the reality TV formats that I created. Way before the likes of Big Brother, I had people living my wildest dreams vicariously. So when I got around to making comics, I wanted more than the norm. I wanted something that I hadn't experienced as a child when I used to read them. So Clockwork Watch is a story that is set in the steampunk era, which, God knows, if it ever existed, we would all have jetpacks and be flying around. But I wanted to light, just to set fire to everyone else's imagination. So I created a narrative that has been living for 11 years, that people can help co-create the narrative. They can step into the world. In fact, they can take control of the world. They could even create their own worlds. And that is what I have been doing. So the story, told through graphic novels, through role play, through cosplay, through exhibitions, but also immersive participatory theatre, one of which we staged at the British Library last week with a capacity of more than 500 who could interact with the characters from our world. And as it happens, we only do one event, one instance of each event, so the people who come to the gigs are the sole storytellers of that experience. We do not photograph, we do not document, but we give people a platform with which they can tell that story online through our online newspaper. And that is what I'm doing at the moment.
I just think that's wonderful. That's wonderful. It's so different as well. And I'm going to come back to what each of you've mentioned, what you're doing. Finally, Jamal, just lightly touch on what you're doing and involved in.
Like I was saying before, it's the whole Blakemore story is it's pretty much that's the only book that I'm really focusing on right now. But within Blakemore, there's like several, I guess, supporting characters and things, and so those supporting characters, how they branch off, I guess the other stories that I would be working on. But it's all just one universe, really. And I guess to summarize the whole character, what I was saying before, his origin issue is going to be out early next year. Everything really all takes place during the Civil War and everything. And he starts out, he's an alien shape-shifting being, and he's tricked by a demon and is trapped in the form of a human, and he's saved by an angel and everything. So it's very, I guess, sounds very biblical, more biblical than it was originally intended to be. But I guess it's just pulled from your upbringing and things, and more things come out than you expect, and everything. And and so from that point on, he's sort of the herald of this angel, and she sends him on different assignments to take out evil beings in different places, and he just happens to be staying in England for a long period of time, taking out evil all through England and everything after coming from America.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. So it is Black History Month, and so I want to just pick up on the things that you're doing, because, like you've hinted, no one's in this for the money. Okay, the FTSE 100, you don't see comic creator in the. Well, you don't, do you? In the FTSE 100. So no one's in it for the money. They're in it for the passion, the love of the craft, and the fact that you can be really creative. However, like I say, it's Black History Month, and my question to you is, what difficulties have you found as a black comic creator, illustrator, writer? Who wants to take that first?
Okay. Okay, so Corey and I mean, Corey's my editor, by the way. Corey and I are part of a group of black creators who have lamented heavily over the past almost decade and a half about opportunities for black creators. We have tons of friends who are amazing storytellers, who have done more or less what we have done. But at the same time, there are thousands of others who haven't. Now, my first book was Clockwork Watch. Prior to that, I'd only written for television and film. When I wanted to get this story going, I was helped by Corey and another friend, Matt Gibbs, who actually introduced me to Corey. But I had 2 pages, or was it a page and a half, of what the story was going to be. Yeah, and I thought it was going to be three books. We're on book 10, going on 11 right now. But then I kind of noticed one thing. There were lots of people who wanted to draw, they wanted to write, they wanted to be published. But they hadn't scaled the initial hurdle, which is to be able to present their dream and what they wanted to do. You go to conventions and you may have people going around with a sheet of paper, they may have some drawings, they may have, but they've never quite made that huge leap. And to give you an indication of how easy it is to a certain degree, at conventions, sometimes the tables don't cost more than £50. So you take a table, you sit down, and you will get an audience. You will get people to come up and talk to you. So I thought, well, if we're going to do this, let's do it properly. Let's not just get the book illustrated, get it published, but get a table. Get a table and be able to engage. Now, we're self-published, and we've been self-published for 11 years. I only recently have got an agent, but over that particular period, we've had conventions from all around the world. We've been able to showcase what we're trying to do. We go to San Diego Comic-Con, which is the biggest in the world. When we initially got together, I kind of said, Corey, what conventions do you want to do? And he said, Comic-Con in San Diego. I said, okay, we're going to do Comic-Con in San Diego. He said, no. You don't just do Comic-Con in San Diego. You apply and you wait for 5 years in the hope that you can get a table. We got a table in the first year. We've had conversations with people from Tom Cruise's creative production company, who came to find us. They came and bought books and got the stories. And I've always said, okay, we are having problems at that level, but you still got to get your stuff together and be able to present it. Without that, you're just a noise in the wilderness. Mm-hmm. And that is one of the things that I kind of think we do by showcasing our work, to say you can do this. Apart from maybe get 2-3 copies done, get a table, because no one's going to know what you can do sitting at home. All you're going to do is be belly aching at home and saying the opportunities have never presented themselves. And truth be told, no one is ever going to give you an opportunity if they think you're going to disappoint them. So step up. And it's not a criticism, it is just a mental block that a lot of people have. Mm. Whereas we have friends who have done exactly the same, and they're still banging their heads against that wall where the opportunities haven't presented themselves. And I had a friend who came to me some time ago and just said, hey, after you've done 4 books and you've not got a publisher and you've not got an agent, my wife would have said you pack that thing in. And I said, well, it's my money and it's my dream and it's my opportunity. And I'm taking in the bull by the horns. And that is one of the things people ought to do. And unfortunately, you will still run into those problems, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't try.
I think we should put that on a postcard. Corey.
Yeah, just kind of bouncing off what Yoms was just saying. There are a lot of glass ceilings that are there. I do feel that part of that comes from a level of expectation of what black characters can and can't be. And this sounds probably shocking to some people, but you've only really started to see the breakout from the stereotypical black characters from kind of like the 90s up to where we are now. I mean, which is still very, very recent, really, especially in the mainstream of stuff. You know, the three of us that we've created books here on the stage, we've kind of put out books which step outside of that boundary, but it's also quite telling that the stuff that we're doing isn't necessarily common within the mainstream at the same time. And I think there's a perceptual shift that is still very glacially turning before we can get to that stage, before we can see that. Having worked in both comic book and games industries, I noticed that in the games industry as well, and that's something that is taking a very, very long time to change. And really, we're still very much in the middle stages of that change in itself. And I said this to, without going into a rant, I said this to Yoms last week after we had the event, the Clockwork Watch event at the British Library. And that's not my phone. And
I was vibrating. I was like, what's going on?
It's I had a bit of a moan, and this is about 1:30 in the morning at this point, and we were just wrapping up. We were kind of
Yoms?
Yeah. We were wrapping up. We were pulling down sets. We were moving props around, and I said to Yoms, and Yoms was like, "How did the night go?" And I said, like, "Well, this is a fantastic event. I'm really, really proud of what you've done and how you've set this up thing. But the one thing that frustrates me so much is, like Yoms has said, we've had pitch meetings. We've spoken to big publishers. We've spoken to studios, so on and so forth. Clockwork Watch is a book which is created by two black guys and a woman. We're the originators from that, starring Sikh protagonists. We are putting stuff out there which you would expect studios, publishers to be really excited to push forward. And yet there's still that element of pushback from that. This is a book which has, as far as we're aware, as far as we know, is an independent book that has done something at the British Library, which no other independent book, as far as I'm aware, across the entire globe has held an event at the British Library. And I turned around to Yoms and I said, this is insane. Like, mainstream books, Marvel, DC haven't done something like this at the British Library. They may have small exhibits or anything, but they haven't held a dedicated event there where people are dressing up, paying money, and interacting with characters from our book. And yet we're still getting pushback from publishers. That, for me, says a lot in some respects. And it also shows the tenacity of Yoms in terms of wanting to keep on pushing the story out there, regardless of the fact that we are still knocking on doors and we're still not getting those doors open to us. So there clearly are still some boundaries there that need to be pushed back, and we're going to continue doing our thing regardless of what people are saying, regardless of what people are doing. But there is that level of frustration, I think, which, like Yoms has said, we can see a lot in a lot of our friends, a lot of our friend creators who are still struggling to break that glass ceiling, to make that kind of mainstream push, because expectations, because of glass ceilings, because of what is put out there and what is told that we can't do or what we cannot do or can do. So yeah, it's definitely a thing that I think has got a long way to go. I'm happy and I'm proud that us as individuals here are being able to walk down that path and really kind of push forward. And hopefully we'll see more progress in the coming years as well as we go along.
Yeah, the glass ceiling and sort of like pigeonholed this is definitely something that that I've experienced, and I think the route that you guys have taken, being like self-published and everything, is I mean, I might eventually do that myself and everything. I think that's the best way to go these days. I mean, you know, you're able to, you know, not really worry about a publisher and just, you know, go ahead and put out what you wanted. I think for me, a lot of the various reasons I was like afraid kind of to go the self-publishing route. And, you know, I mean, maybe a little laziness, maybe a little afraid, so, because like, you know, I don't like there to be, you know, I guess responsible for that part of business. You know, I don't want to print the book and this and that. You know, I just want to write the story and let someone else do the taxes and everything. And so I really wanted, you know, a publisher, you know, to handle that. And you know, I was fortunate enough. I'm working with a publisher out of Washington back home. It was this, you know, this African American publisher and everything, and you know, Advent Comics, and you know, it's been pretty good. Although, you know, I may follow their route and go the self-publishing way, but yeah, I definitely experienced that sort of, you know, this story doesn't belong in, you know, in what you're trying to do. So you know, you expect to get a lot of rejection letters, you know, along the way. You know, you expect that, you know, when you're in a creative thing. And so I wasn't shocked by that, but I did get one letter, one email that was shocking, and it was almost, you could almost kind of feel that the publisher was like, how dare you, you know, sort of send this. So basically, I got this one publisher I had written to in 2020. In 2020. And like I said, I was reaching out to every publisher I could find. And so I didn't hear back from this publisher until 2022. So now, yeah, I had forgotten I even, you know, submitted to this person. And so you would think if you took 2 years to write back to somebody, it's going to be something positive. So I opened the email. I don't know, man, I'm like, God, who is this publisher? I didn't even think about this. So they're tearing me apart. It's tearing me apart. It's like, oh, this is the book. This seems like it's not even from your heart. I don't believe this is good. It was insane. It was literally insane. I'm reading this. I'm like, what? Who is this? Like, what is this? And the whole thing was like, you know, I think it was sort of like, this character shouldn't be, you know, this character shouldn't be. So naturally, I'm like, what is this? Who is it? I don't even remember submitting to this person. So I go back and of course, now I have to look at, you know, their books now and everything. So I looked, you know, at the company, and they had two books that had black lead characters put out, and both of the books were sort of like, you know, someone in the ghetto is struggling and they say, you know, and guns and this and that, and it's sort of like, okay, I see. So, you know, this is obviously not what I submitted to you, and you were insulted by the fact that I have this fantasy character, and you know,
and black hero, so they're insulted by the elevation and the fact that it's a black hero,
yeah,
and not sort of in a lower echelons, as in the trope. They would like to have you settled in.
Yeah, you know, and that's the whole thing. So, like I said, you know, I was fortunate enough to find the publisher that I did, and you know, especially after getting emails like that, you get beat up. You know, you're kind of like, oh, maybe I should find something else to do. You know, so you know, when I did find someone that was like, yeah, this is great. I believe in what you're doing here. This is, you know, it really, you know, makes you fixes a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And everything, and yeah, so that was good. But yeah, definitely that pigeonholedness is real. That sort of, you know, you don't belong in this sort of section of the fantasy world, which is a crazy thing. Because like, once you start out, the whole thing of fantasy, it's fantasy. It doesn't. Why should there be who belongs and who doesn't?
But it'd be like you say, it's fantasy, but also as well, that particular publisher does not want to give any potential reader the audacity to dream, to think, well, I can be better than this. There's a see me, be me element, and I can do this, and I can elevate myself as well. There is an element of them trying to keep people down. I understand your rant, because I do go on a rant as well, and I understand about you sort of forging ahead. I'm all for the self-publishing, and I know that you think, oh, I can't be bothered with that area. Sometimes we're going to have to take on that mantle. Either that or collaborate. These two have collaborated. They now to self-publish. Your editor for his stuff and so on, and cross-pollinate and try and do that. One thing I want to do is make sure that you connect with these two, because that was one of the things, is building up your network. You've come over from New York, you're living here in the UK. Now we've started on the ground level, as in you've connected with these two to make a network. They're your tribe. This is what is the whole thing about the zebra tribe, is I want to create that tribe of black comic creators. There is a grouping, I know, that you have there, but I want to be able to sort of make sure that it gets out to the mainstream. I'm a big fan of allies. We've got two allies here. We've got Ann Whitehead and we've got Mark Jackson, and they're fantastic allies in relation to that. And they will support black comic creators, writers and illustrators. They will support them as well. And when I am, and I'm going to hand this over to you because I can see you itching. When I host a lot of women's events, because I'm on the trustee board of 50-50 Parliament to get 50% women in Parliament, and I host women's events, I always say the rise of women does not mean the fall of men. That can be the same for the rise of black comic creators and illustrators, does not mean the fall of any other comic creators. It's just an elevation to the same. It's a level playing field. Would you not say?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Yeah? And when I talk about allies, again, sticking with the women's role, is that you have Emmeline Pankhurst, and everyone knows about the suffragettes. What people forget is Richard Pankhurst. All the legislation and all the things behind the scenes in relation to the suffragette movement and the legalities behind that was written by Richard Pankhurst. There's also Charles Rigby as well. There are a lot of men, I've just named two men, but there are a lot of men that supported the suffragette movement. So men support women on women's rights. White, non-black individuals support with issues in relation to this kind of thing as well. So, Yomi, you're itching to say something to add to that.
Well, I was actually going to reference, based on what you said, Jamal, I was going to reference a panel that Corey and I went to in San Diego years ago, which was the Black Writers panel. Yeah. And this was a bit of a revelation for me, because you had about 4 to 6 people on the panel who had written for the big publishing houses. And they spent the best part of an hour talking about how they couldn't or weren't being given the opportunity to develop characters outside their race, which we thought was really, really strange, owing to the fact that these were household names, yet they couldn't make that leap. Now, I almost stood up and said, oh, hey, guys, we're from England. As you can see, we're black. And the main character in our story is an Indian Sikh. We've never been to India. We know nothing about the culture other than what we've learnt and what we've researched. And we're self-published. And if you guys are as known as you are, with all the publishing houses and all the rest, couldn't you just do a self-published book and build on your audience? And I think Corey kind of gave me a bit of a nudge that maybe this isn't the time to light that fire, which I nearly did. But yeah, I know. But it is very, very strange. You say we made it was a leap. The leap for us, I guess, was getting the job done, getting the book out there, which was also a pat on the back to say we can actually achieve this with our own means, in the hope that someone sees it, acknowledges it, likes it. And over the years, the feedback that we've had, I mean, I've had Clockwork Watch has been basis of a master's thesis. People have studied it. Over the years, we have funded part-funded a school that takes in underage girls in Kenya and saves them from underage marriage and FGM by just putting money. And for that, for us, it was more, the whole money thing, it was more to show that our creativity isn't there just to promote ourselves or give us money, that we can actually use our creativity to some good, rather than jumping on a platform of one kind or another. So that is, I think that's our success and our belief in ourselves, which I don't think we would have been afforded if we hadn't made this jump ourselves, or if we had been picked up by a publishing house who would curtail almost everything that we do.
Preach. That's exactly it. Because they do, they'll curtail. I want to roll this and wrap this up now, but rest assured, I feel a podcast brewing. I do. I feel further conversation brewing, but we will be here again next year. But there will be pockets of events peppered throughout 2024. But we want to be back here next year, and I'm going to leave you with an African proverb. If you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, we'll go together. Thank you.